This is the new 13-inch iPad Pro, and this is the new 11-inch iPad Pro, both of them new for 2024, and they're both running Apple's new M4 chip. But this product here is my trusty 2018 iPad Pro. This thing is almost 6 years old at this point, but I've never really been tempted to upgrade this product. I feel like this has been all the iPad that I could possibly want. But when I went to New York and checked out these devices, I was like, they were so tempting. And then after this review period, I absolutely will be finally upgrading this 2018 device. It's going to be to this 13-inch device, but it's not for the reason that it originally thought. So first thing, a quick note on the unboxing. So typically when it comes to Apple products, there's usually some kind of sticker inside the package. It could be like a white sticker or a colored sticker depending on the product, but usually there's some kind of plastic sticker in there. But seemingly in an effort to reduce their plastic consumption, the stickers in Apple products are gone. But the second thing that was interesting is that on the 13-inch iPad Pro, and only the 13-inch, not the 11-inch iPad Pro, you get a black charging cable. The brick is still white, but black charging cable. And the thought that I had was like, why are they separating the 13 and 11-inch? And typically when Apple includes like a black accessory, it's like the Pro product. It's the thing that makes it like the most Pro. And you'll see, in terms of the performance, the 13-inch is actually a more Pro device than the 11. So I just found it strange that they included a black charging cable only on the 13. This is crazy. I'm talking about colors of charging cables, but that's just how Apple does things. All right, let's talk about these displays because these new OLED panels are arguably the most interesting things about these new iPads. They both have these new super bright OLED panels, and the tech required to get them this bright is incredible. So it's a pair of OLED panels run in tandem, and they have these incredibly energy efficient display engines to be able to pull it off. But despite these very bright screens, they still have very good battery life. And even when I crank the OLED panels to full brightness, it still has excellent run times. These are amazing displays, and I actually think these are the first devices out there of like consumer tech that uses this type of screen tech. It's really visible in bright environments. Like if you're using it right beside a super bright window or outdoors on a sunny day, these new OLED screens are way better than the stuff we've seen before. But if I'm being honest with myself, aside from the brightness of these screens outdoors, I don't actually think that these new panels are that much better than even my 2018 iPad Pro. Like if you compare these products in terms of their generations side by side, yes, it is noticeable, but you gotta have them side by side. If I'm looking at them individually, I feel like they've been amazing displays since 2018. Like the 2018 or newer 11-inch iPad Pros, they're just regular IPS panels, but they're so high quality that even 6 years later, they still look good. And then the 12.9-inch iPad Pros with the mini LED panels, those have a little bloom sometimes, but they look awesome. And when I'm indoors, yes, these new OLED panels look amazing, but so does basically any iPad Pro since 2018. That's just the conclusion I think many people would draw. There is one exception. It's that if you really need color accurate screens, like the best color accuracy is gonna come from the newest tech. So if you work with photo and video, and you really need that perfect color accuracy, these are gonna do a better job. Also, there's another thing. It's the ghosting that has appeared in the previous generations of, iPad Pros. So yes, 2018 and onwards, they've all had 120 hertz ProMotion, but the response time on these older panels have been a little on the slow side. So if you played like fast-paced games at high refresh, the response time was slow enough that you see some ghosting. It doesn't have that issue on these new screens because OLED tech has very fast response time. Okay, the other thing that's changed, the other major change, is the dimensions and weight. So both the 13-inch and the 11-inch are thinner and lighter than the previous generation of these products. And it's pretty significant on the 13-inch device. This is 5.1 millimeters thin. It's really thin and quite a bit lighter than the previous generation. I'm someone who's always appreciated the pursuit of thinness and the reduction of weight. And the way that Apple did it here, it's like even more commendable because they did not reduce the performance and they did not reduce the battery life on these products, even when they shrank them down like this. So that's really cool. I will say that there's something about me that just doesn't trust a 5.1 millimeter thick device. Like these are review units, they're loaners, so I'm not gonna bend them. There's no way I would do that. But I'm sure someone out there is going to do some testing where you just crank it. 5.1 millimeters is so thin. So we'll see how it holds up over time. They're also both lighter, and the 13-inch one, again, is particularly impressive. But for me, I typically have my iPads like mounted on a stand or something, or just sitting on a table, so the weight reduction isn't that critical to me. But for people that carry these things around all the time, they're on a job site, they're just walking around with these things, or in a hospital, that weight reduction is a nice bonus. Okay, the M4 chip. This is the first device, or these two devices are the first devices that have the new Apple M4 chip. Incredibly fast, but still very energy efficient. Now, both of these are able to handle their heat output well, but the 13-inch one is fractionally better. That's why it has the black cable, right? The thing is, though, aside from these synthetic benchmarks, it's actually really hard for me to tell the M1 chip devices from these new M4 chips. Like, they're so similar. And from the perspective of me, who's trying to replace a 2018 device, even then, the 2018 model I have benchmarks way worse than these M4 devices, but in terms of the stuff that I do, like streaming shows or taking notes and the occasional drawing app, it still feels really snappy, even compared to the new M4. Okay, I want to move on to the conversation of the new Apple Pencil Pro. So this is the new Apple Pencil Pro that I cannot really use properly because I'm not an artist, but my niece is, so I let her draw on it for a couple hours, and these are some thoughts she had. The barrel roll feature, where the gyroscope inside the Apple Pencil Pro can sense the rotation degree of the barrel, it's neat, but it's seemingly very situational, like very few brushes and or markers can actually take advantage of it, so it's not necessary for most digital illustration. But the squeeze gesture, she really liked that. So in the beginning, she found it a little bit cumbersome because it would trigger a few times by accident, but once she got used to it, you could tell that she was able to switch colors and access different tools a lot quicker than using the traditional UI, and she liked that. And then the last thing is the haptic motor that's inside the Apple Pencil Pro. So when you squeeze the barrel and you do that squeeze gesture, you get this little taptic bump that just tells you that you squeezed it. It's just to make the whole process of squeezing the barrel and then like selecting things feel a little bit more deliberate. It's like a very subtle thing. It's nothing crazy, but again, it's just a nice little feature add on this device. Now, the issue that I have with this whole product, the whole Apple Pencil Pro, is that this is only available on the new iPad Pros. You cannot use this new Apple Pencil Pro with the old generations of iPad Pros, even the one that came out 2 years ago. And to me, like, okay, the reasoning behind it is that because the front-facing camera is now mounted on the landscape edges, right on the sides of these iPads, and it's a great position, right? You just get better FaceTime angles on the side there, and face unlock is a little bit better on that side, but it just kills me. They're claiming that because the camera's positioned there, the magnetic and charging system had to be tweaked, and therefore these new ones can't work. Like, it just feels a little too convenient that now, if you want this new Apple Pencil Pro with all its new features, you have to buy a whole new iPad to be able to get it. And I mean, it might be true, it's probably true, but it just still kills me that that's the state of how you get the new Apple Pencil Pro to work. I also want to talk about these new keyboards. So this here is the new Magic Keyboard for the new iPad Pros. And again, you can only get this new keyboard with the new iPad Pros. And the whole keyboard feels very good. Like, this is a very similar keyboard to, in terms of like the feel and even the aesthetics, to the keyboards that are on the existing MacBook lineup. And it's got this metal keyboard deck and a trackpad that is also like a haptic trackpad. This is not a trackpad that you depress and like it physically moves up and down. There's a bit of movement, but the tap that you feel, the kind of click that you feel, is from a motor on the inside that generates that kind of tactile feedback, just like their MacBooks. But typing on this keyboard is awesome. I type as fast on this thing as I would on basically any laptop keyboard. It just feels like a better typing experience than the one you got from the previous generation of Magic Keyboard. Like, the keys on this just feel a little bit more responsive. And also, it's a aluminum surface, which some people might like. The older one had that like soft touch rubber, which I didn't mind, but it does feel more premium on this new product. But the pricing between the two Magic Keyboards is still the same. So this year, with the new iPad Pros, you just get a way better product all around, right? You get a better screen, better chip, better pencil, better keyboard, better front-facing camera position, and all while the device is being thinner and lighter. The price has gone up by about $100, depending on the configuration, but it does have a higher base configuration than before, so it is more expensive to get into this whole product line. But the fact remains, this is a just infinitely, it's a better product compared to anything I've had before. Now, when I went to New York and I got to see these things, I was like, okay, for sure, I'm gonna be upgrading. But then, having gotten the review units in, I'm starting to get some cold feet, because everything I'm comparing it to my 2018, I'm like, it's better, but the overall experience didn't really change for me, especially for the stuff that I do. But then, yesterday, just as I was like gathering my thoughts around this stuff, I had this crazy epiphany. So, the way that I shoot my videos right now, if you guys have noticed, I have multiple cameras all running at the same time, usually 2, sometimes 3 or 4, and they're all being fed to one computer that's running OBS. And I try to edit my videos in real time. Like, I'll switch camera angles and try different transitions while I shoot my videos. And I do all of this through a Stream Deck. I press buttons, I can control the cameras as I shoot. But in Apple's keynote video, they showed this multicam setup thing that was running on Final Cut for iPads. And I thought it was kind of neat, but then they showed me a demonstration of it in front of my face of like how it's all done, and I was blown away. I saw this thing being done, I was like, this is crazy. Like, they were running 4 cameras, kind of similar to what I'm trying to pull off, but it was all done without any wires. It was just done with a single iPad, and it was controlling all the things, like the zoom, the focus, like it was just crazy. And this setup that I have here, this took me like, I don't know, a week and a half to really kind of configure it. And even now, I'm still like fiddling with it. But this has 50 wires, and there's so much stuff that I have to tweak and fix all the time. Not so much fix, but there's so much stuff that I need to fiddle with. And all of this thing hinges on that computer right there, a very decked out Mac Studio. Now, before I had that Mac, I used to run it on a regular Windows PC. I had an RTX 4090 in a 13th gen Intel system. I also tried an AMD system. Those PCs were way too loud for what I'm doing, because we have 4K cameras that are being fed into a thing that's encoded live, and sometimes I would stream this stuff out. So all of that processing, it can handle it on a regular Windows system, but the fan noise was really annoying to work around it. So I tried running the system in a separate room, but it's just like I wanted access to the computer. Like, it was a pain. So I got this M2 Mac Studio in, but it's a borrowed unit. This is not mine. It has to go back. And I was like, okay, if I have to do this whole setup using a stupidly expensive Mac computer, or I could use this iPad and do the same kind of thing with no wires. I'm like, I want to try that. I need to try that thing. Now, unfortunately, that app is not available for testing right now. So I'm like, I couldn't even, the idea was that I would be able to play with it and talk to you guys about it, but I'm pretty sure that that's the setup I want to switch to. It just seems so fluid and effortless and just easy to use. And because I try to do my stuff live and interact with it live, I mean, like, that's the dream of what how I want to make content. So I'm totally picking up one of these 13-inch devices. Again, these are loaners. They have to go back, but I'm going to buy one. And hopefully I can do what they showed in the marketing material. Now, you might be looking at this and being like, dude, that's marketing material. That's not going to work. Maybe it won't. But I think when I see that, I see what that thing could do. And the same thing goes with like the Logic Pro and like the whole ecosystem that is available on the high-level iPads right now is incredible. Like, it's actually kind of strange. I mean, it's changed the perspective of how I view these products. Like, the very first time I reviewed one of the kind of more expensive iPad Pros, and it's still the same sentiment that's today. The whole idea is that it's cool hardware, but there's nothing to do on these crazy tablets, these crazy powerful tablets. But I think it's changing. Like, you just have to be open to the idea of what these things can do. I really think that new Final Cut workflow with the multiple cameras being run simultaneously, where you can control focus and zoom off of a single iPad with all these cameras feeding into it, that is crazy cool to me. Okay, but that's my iPad Pro review. It's a weird one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. I'll see you guys next time.